And we have Alex on the,
Oh, good.
Hi there.
It's not here.
I think it's 2 o'clock. I'll go ahead and start the tape if you're ready.
Sure.
Okay. And you're all set.
Welcome to the May 13th Public Works and Streets Commission meeting, 2 p.m. We have, is Don Groth?
I'm letting him and Julie in right now.
Okay, Don Groth is here, Don Phipps, Kevin is here, Alex is here, Jim is here, Bob Bennett?
Not yet.
Not yet, okay. So we
Okay.
certainly have a quorum if need be. Announcements. There on Monday, there is a tabletop here in the Commons in the multipurpose room regarding wildfires. Most of the city staff is going to be there. Public Works and Streets Commission has been invited, and Emergency Preparedness have been invited, as well as I'm sure other people. That's at 5:30. Prior to that, at 3 o'clock is a Red Cross, I don't know quite what to call it, summary of how to help us set up the Commons as an emergency shelter. It will be an abbreviated presentation to some extent. I have invited as many other people, and I know Bobby has as well for that. I have the churches, I've got Sea Air, I have fire department, as many people as I can, that would be appropriate that are going to support. I think that's important for this, for people to just hear, and then we can start dialing down what the requirements really are and what we're going to have to be doing. But we are doing it in conjunction with Red Cross, so we can lean on Red Cross for support depending on the type of event or emergency. They can bring their trailer down, which is full of a lot of equipment. So we would not have to necessarily provide everything. The May implement, we'll talk about that down in finance report. We have a citizen here today. So we have a citizen concern, apparently. This is rare, believe me, and we appreciate it. Please step forward and.
Well, I want to talk about the delineators.
It's on the agenda.
You want to wait for the agenda? Okay.
But I'd like to be here.
You're welcome to present what you want first. Okay. Fire department report, none. Emergency Preparedness Committee report. Myself and 3 of the Emergency Preparedness Committee members, 2 physicians and a nurse, went through the Connex on radar. We sorted all the first aid supplies. We put them into smaller boxes that are all sealed now. They can be a box that we hand out to somebody that can handle first aid, and they can go someplace rather than everybody having an issue having to come up to the Connex. So we have people that can go out and take care of people with minor kinds of things, of course. Discussion is still ongoing in terms of what happens for people that are more serious. Depending on the emergency, if we're taking supplies out of the Connex, that means something really major has happened because we are up there. So we don't know what, in terms of transportation, if transportation even would exist to get out of here for first aid. So the physicians are trying to prepare as best they can in terms of some supplies, but like they said, you can only do so much in those times. So we will work next at the Crestline, Crestview. Connex do the same thing, pare down, and we're putting labels on the boxes also that lists all the items that are in the boxes. All three indicated that there were good supplies there. They didn't suggest very many other things to go in there. But with the smaller containers, you don't have to sort through a 3x3x3 box looking for a Band-Aid. You've got small containers of supplies. So I think that'll work out much better. Public Works report, Dave and Rick.
Here we are again.
Here we are.
Okay, I just wanted to share a couple things that I believe Rick and I and Becca have come up with a proper solution for the water loss efficiency. So it's looking a lot better. That was really good. Working down the list in streets, we did a lot in April. The multiple pothole filling, backbladed Windy Way and Crestview. I'm just gonna throw out some of these names so that you know. Sometimes I feel when I just said we did this on streets, it takes away from the work the guys did. So I'm just gonna tell you that we did sidearm mowing on Crestview Drive, West 6th, Reed Circle and Windy Way. Imagine that in April that we're already having to sidearm mow. So yeah, that started to creep up on us. Did our normal storm drainage stuff, put a short culvert on Reed Circle. At the water plant, the crew did a lot of potholing and excavation on Reedy Creek water line coming down from there, trying to find it and locate its exact position. Then in distribution, they did a lot of hydrant flushing and maintenance, and some of this other stuff, system flushing as well. So in other words, we flushed hydrants and then we were flushing back blow-offs on it. We also worked on several little leaks in town and then a major leak on Cedar. We had a 4-inch high pressure line break.
Wow.
Of course, that was us working on having a contractor work on our I&I stuff. So working on a sewer line, found it. But I can tell you that it was a line that we didn't know was in that position. So we've updated our maps accordingly.
Good.
Down in the collection system, we did quite a bit of CCTVing in the sewer pipes, looking for things. Did quite a bit of searching also for the East 2nd Phase 3 sewer line stuff, the laterals on that. And we, as I put in here, we assisted the contractor with repairs. And then the two newer guys, they did quite a bit of work at City Hall with work orders and so on. Well, that's it in a nutshell for the month of April. But May will be a lot bigger.
A lot bigger.
Yes.
You guys have been busy as it is.
We really have.
That's great, though. That's great.
Any questions?
Anybody have any questions?
How many fire hydrants have been painted?
Says the Phantom fire hydrant painter.
Yeah.
I will add, and that's a great thing to be, I guess. We welcome that. But I will add that when you emailed me about fire hydrants,
Yeah.
right after you emailed that,
Taken, right?
it was taken, and the lady emailed me, asked me when they could get to it, and then they said, but I just looked, it's been painted. So when you send me an email,
Yeah.
you're on your way out.
Yeah, I had the paintbrush and the can in my hand.
Yeah, help yourself to any fire hydrant you want out there, we'll give you more.
He had leftover paint, he says, so he just looked for another one.
Yes, he's proved that one port will do 3 fire hydrants. Thank you very much.
That's great. How many people do we have signed up, Dave?
I think about 21.
Good. Okay. That's not bad.
More than I thought.
Yeah. So come a little later and good weather, we hope more of them will get out there and.
Well, yeah, we kind of hope so, but we're gonna be painting them ourselves here pretty quick.
Okay.
I usually have it ready, but I'm space. So, the engineer is gonna be working with PUD to, put the underground power for the, over on Ocean View Drive.
Oh, okay.
Just talking with them now. The engineer is extremely busy. And I heard through the grapevine that somebody is buying Civil West. And they're in the middle of a transition. Last time Civil West did that was when we built the South Reservoir. And they screwed the pooch. Just inexperience in transition and, you know, we have since fixed our relationship, but it got
Mhm.
pretty bad there. Let's see. As right now, they're opening bids for East Second Street project,
Oh, excellent.
and I'll have that probably by this evening sometime or in the morning. He does a tabulation sheet and sends it to me.
Did he have very many bidders?
You know, I didn't ask, but we had a pre-bid meeting. And 3 people showed up for that, 3 different contracts.
That's pretty good.
And there was like 7 plan holders.
Okay.
And one of them in there, 2 of them in there, actually, I really hope get the job because they worked for us before and just did really good work.
Good.
Okay, South Lincoln Water. Their one of their managers is on medical leave. And so with Bobby's permission so far, I've been doing some mutual aid and Bobby and South Lincoln gonna start talking about maybe job sharing me, like the city would contract me to South Lincoln for a few hours a week. They have a brand new water plant operator, uncertified. And so that's a daily, we communicate daily.
Yeah.
So they're in kind of a bad way over there. So we're helping them.
Good.
Rick, I thought a while back you had said you were working there on Fridays. Is that still going on?
Yeah. So this is more aggressive. They had an operator. And now they need me more than just operations. It's the projects. Like we're just finishing up the water management and conservation plan. I've been pretty heavily involved in that. And that's the plan that will tell them how much water they can sell to the city on a continuous basis. Hopefully we'll you know, continue to grow and become more of a unit. And I want that long-term contract. And a message that just popped up here. It's that time to start thinking about re-signing the yearly agreement that we've had with them. We stop that every year because when we have the agreement, we pay a monthly base fee and it's a $10,000 fee upfront, and then base fee in the water that you use. So, 10,000, it's a lot of money, but in the long run, it's gonna be good money spent because we need that relationship. I just wrote a report to the council explaining, identifying the capacity of yachts, how many people, say, are we gonna have in 2041? And what kind of water demand that's gonna bring. And we don't have water for that, for peak flows during, especially a drought. We can come close. But if you have any problems at the water plant and you have to shut down for half a day or something, it'd be really hard, if not impossible, to catch up to where you were before the incident. It could be a fire, a water line break. So it puts us in a vulnerable position.
About how many hours a week are we talking about beyond the Friday?
Oh, in South Lincoln?
Yeah.
Probably 5.
5 hours, okay.
Yeah, nothing big. I don't want a full-time job over there, but I want to help.
And you're saying this is just to train someone or to help someone?
Yeah, one of the problems is when I do work over there, it's either on my day off or I have to take time off to go over there. We don't have a contract, the city doesn't. So I need to take vacation time when I go over there during the week. But I'd like to try to work, because I like my time.
Yeah.
Well, how long several months, or what are you thinking of timeframe?
Their manager is on a medical leave for the next month. And I'm not sure if he's gonna come back. So it's kind of a wait and see. But there's certain responsibilities that he won't have anymore when he comes back. And they're looking to cover their bases. They have an office manager, and she kind of runs the show. She's really the boss. And she doesn't have a field experience. She can run an office great. But working with engineers and stuff like that, which them over there, it's a whole nother atmosphere. Like we got, Dave and I got like 15 projects each. There's like 1, maybe 2 over there.
It's a big project coming up though, isn't
Yeah, they got a $5 million water lines.
it? Yeah.
So I'm getting in on the preliminary engineering, tracking the project, just in case I have to help out in the end.
So you're thinking this is more of a long-term commitment, like a year or more?
I would like to see it forever and ever, as long as it's not too, I'm only one guy. Dave does make my world really easy.
I mean, I hate to be possessive of your time, but I'm sure.
I'm not for snow. I mean, they can't, I'm staying here. It sounds ridiculous, but I got 5 weeks of vacation time a year here. I don't want to start over with 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We want to maintain that relationship because we need their water.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
And that's been the whole drive to begin with.
Bobby?
Yeah, so what we are doing and with that is, I've made contact with their board and we're looking at what is like a mutual aid agreement that our attorney will draft up so that, we are basically, we'll charge them an hourly rate for a loaded rate for Rick's services there. And then it definitely does help continue that relationship and
That's right.
ensure that, that they're getting the support they need. We're a small community, we're small water districts. We need to be able to help each other out and show that we're here for each other and hopes maybe we'll combine one day. And this is a really good lead to that.
Yeah, it's just
Clear.
It's a tour.
I like it.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I understand that we're looking ahead this summer at being a little drier than last year too.
I was just looking at the drought information on the internet. And we're at 75% of average right now. And that little bit of rain we got was fantastic. But it's the May, June rains that
Yeah.
Yeah.
pull us through at the end of the summer. Okay, here's a good one, fast. On the feasibility study that we're doing on the the new reservoir site.
Hmm.
We'll start the feasibility study in earnest after probably Thursday. And we got $100,000 grant from the Housing Infrastructure Support Fund. And it goes directly to the feasibility study, which is earmarked for 210. And we got 100 to put toward it.
That's great.
Yeah,
That's
and it
great.
was, Bobby and the mayor spoke last week to a lot of the Oregon officials. Bobby put it all together and walked them through each one of our big projects that we got coming up in the next few years that we don't have money for. And it was like 2 days later, I got the acceptance letter.
All right.
Which I thought was kind of odd because I just put in a letter of interest, you know, not the application. That Bobby got it, we just skip that out. We'll just give it.
You don't need to be doing that stuff anymore.
Just let me start talking.
There you go.
So,
That's
just
good.
the speed
Good
zone
job.
stuff, I don't have anything more.
Anybody have any questions on Rick's report? Alex, Don?
I had one on, and which maybe kind of links into the CIP. On the water plant clarifier, I noticed we're moving it out a couple of years or,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
What-
we can
Refresh my
start
memory, what all
that
has to be done on the,
on the clarifier.
yeah,
It's still operational, but it's about 75% is good and 25% bad. And
okay,
now that we got Dyer as an engineer of record, I feel comfortable going forward on that project because our previous engineers didn't have any contacts or, you know, not quite sure where to even start on the remodel of the clarifier.
Okay.
It's not something that they do, but Dyer does
Yeah.
water, wastewater, everything. They got a ton of contacts.
Let me ask one more question on the feasibility study. That's feasibility towards,
That new reservoir study.
okay,
So the first step is the geotech study. And then little LiDAR, the whole area. And start figuring out piping and what the rest of the project will look like the transmission line that they're gonna have to put in from the old reservoir to the new reservoir. You know, how that's going, all the preliminary engineering that would give us a price estimate at the end of it.
have we done the geologic study there?
No, we've been waiting for, we're purchasing the property. At least I think so. And pretty sure since we're having a special meeting on Thursday. It's my guess. And once we have a signed contract, we got 180 days to perform at least the geotech study.
And if it fails, does the city back out or what happens?
Well, that's an option. And another option is to regroup and if not there, maybe there's another spot in the same property.
Oh, okay.
So I'm sure there's a good spot up there. All the preliminary stuff I've read, any geotech stuff that I found on the internet in the area. It's all really favorable. I got a real good feeling about that piece of property.
Good, good. Finance report. Don?
You want me to bring that up, Don?
Yeah, let's look at April. Couple of highlights wanted to look at. You may have to go out to the website to get the April report.
Gotcha.
You maybe just link to the March.
We're almost at the end of the fiscal year here, aren't we?
Yes.
When is it?
July, end of June.
End of June.
Yeah, we're looking pretty good. From the predictions, anyway.
Good.
So you have to go down and go to the next pages. Whoop. Okay, there's April. Very good. Okay, on the streets, I notice we're at 84% collection against the $72,000 budget. So I think we're gonna make the 72, if not exceed it a little bit on the revenue for the year.
Be awful close, it looks like.
Yeah. And then on the streets capital reserve, I don't have any other questions on the streets. On the capital reserve, I'm not expecting, I think we've pretty well spent what we plan on spending. I guess we've got a little bit more on some of the repair construction, the 100,000 that we budgeted. And then storm drains were pretty clean. I didn't see anything wanted to talk about too much on that. So on water operations, I noticed on the revenue, we're at 80%. We were hoping to be at 83%, but I think we're pretty well in line. We'll see May, so stay there. Whoa, don't go down yet. Hopefully if we get 80 and 80, you remember June is when we should start picking up on the revenue. I think May is going to be a transition. It should be in the same range. I thought I was a little surprised at the 80. I thought we were going to have kind of a slump in April because I didn't see as much flow of people, although refresh my memory, Lynn, Drew said that he had more of a downturn in February and March, but was better starting in April, right?
Correct.
So that looked to me like we're going to be in pretty good shape there. And if we go down, so operations is at net 268 right now. There is a little bit of difference in the beginning balance than what was in the second close. So it's either 20 or 30,000 difference. So, but I think the 268 is a pretty good indicator. So anybody, I don't know if since Bob's not here, anybody else have any other questions on water revenue or anything like that?
That looked pretty good.
Yeah,
So the additional charges that
Mhm.
were approved by the council seem to be working. Is that what I'm
Exactly.
hearing?
Exactly. And we have one that was initiated this month, correct?
Yep,
Remind us what that one was.
sewer equalization.
That's right. That's right. So we should start seeing a little bit more revenue from now on. Too, so that's good.
But we're not, are we on track to get the 200,000 or whatever it was our target was, or is there still some room?
Wasn't 200.
I think it was
It's like-
30.
it was only 50,000 for water. And that's why when we looked at the revenue, if we get 80 or so, we're at a little 80%, we should be around 83%. But I think May and June is going to catch us up to, at least we'll be at the budget, which included the 50,000 increase.
Yeah, so we only budgeted an increase of 50,000 for water and an increase of 50,000 for sewer for this last fiscal year. The goal was to be able to reach an additional $200,000, but we got 100. I think when Becca gave her presentation last week or last month, I think Julie's on, she'll probably
Mhm.
remember more exactly, but I believe it was in the 130,000 range was
Exactly.
estimated from these implementations thus far.
And that's 6 months. Less than 6 months already, so
So it sounds like everyone's feeling good about where we're at.
Yeah.
Okay.
a good start.
And when do you think we'll have some kind of like final evaluation where you're going to say, yes, it worked? I mean,
I think probably a year from when we started putting them in would be a good time to really truly
Exactly.
evaluate it.
okay.
Since most of these are fixed fees, it's pretty hard not to expect those numbers to work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
There's no variable costs, so.
Yeah. Okay.
Don?
Then on water capital, you'll notice that we're at 377. Enclosed in the package was a capital improvement project listing. And we talked about a couple of the big items that we're not going to spend, which was the 250,000 for the clarifier and the other ones, the water booster stations there, and on the website is the budget package that shows how much is the carryover. Right now, we're talking about carryover unused funds of 572,000 out of the 1,054,000. That's either we don't have to spend or carries over, with the largest one being the clarifier. So I'm not expecting too much more expenditure in water capital between now and June, the next 2 months. Okay, let's look at wastewater. It's interesting. Wastewater overall is at 82%, so 76,000. So go back up. Okay, right on this page here. So that one might be closer to get to the 911. With 2 more months to go. So wastewater, oh, where are we on the changes on the wastewater, Bobby and Rick?
Changes on wastewater, is that percentage? Is that what you're
Yeah.
referring to?
Well, I was thinking about how wastewater's revenue adjustments. We've made some billing changes. We don't have any more to go, do we?
One that's going, that got implemented starting May 1st will affect the commercial users.
Oh,
for
okay.
sewer. And so we'll see a difference in our June finance reports, financial reports from that.
Okay.
And we're budgeting
Did you
to
see
have the 50-40 split water and sewer for this next year's balance of those two, no, next year's budget.
We might need to talk,
No, 50-40, 60-40,
talk,
50-40.
yeah, that's because it's run a little bit different. It's more like wastewater is running 90 to 92%. Somewhere in the 90% range of water in the past, but all the changes in the water, I wasn't sure if wastewater was catching up with that historical difference. Because we had 80 versus,
I think I answered your question, a different question. Different answer. for your-
well, it looks like to me, we maybe need to see where we are at the end of June and kind of put in some planning to see if any additional work needs to be done on wastewater. As it part of the fee schedule.
Did you, in the budget book, take a look at the forecasting revenue for water and wastewater section?
I did a little bit,
Okay. We'll take a look at that.
yeah. So if there's no other questions on wastewater, we kind of skimmed over the expenses, but they're kind of moving along. And then, so let's look at the capital reserve real quick. That one looks like we're going to be pretty well in line with the rest of the expenditures and not have any carryover per se. And there's not any estimate of carryover in the new budget package, so. And then go ahead and look at the SDCs. So we did collect some more of the LID.
Yeah.
So that's starting to happen. We kind of had a lull where we kind of lost track of the billing on that the last couple of years in a row. But then the other fees are coming in pretty well. So construction's still going fairly well. But unless anybody has any other questions,
Okay.
that's pretty well it. And at least now we've covered April, so we don't have to.
That's right. Who wants to tackle go down the CIP proposal for next year?
I would like to get Rick and Dave's reaction to that's in the package. Yeah, there it is right here. There's water and
You can do it.
as far as so go down a little bit. Can you squeeze it down a little bit? Well, I guess not. So the next period is 1,755,000. Would like kind of Rick's comments on if he thinks that because we had so much stuff that didn't get to go because of other factors, if we of course the biggest item of the 1,750 is the reservoir replacement acquisition. So that depending on how the process on that goes, will kind of determine on if we're going to get how much of that project will be done next year. And then Rick, can you talk a little bit on the Reedy? I noticed the Reedy Creek pipeline improvement. What,
Yeah, that engineering didn't get done in time to add that to the East Second Street project. So I'm gonna add that to projects next year. You know, they complete the engineering and have it all ready to go.
so go up a little bit, Kimmy.
What's that?
Where are we now? Oh,
What did you want me to do?
go a little bit higher on this page.
On the very first
Yeah.
page,
Yeah, right there.
You
See
got
the
it.
300
It's there.
300,000.
thousand, that's what you're kind of falling into there. Out of the 104, I noticed that carryover of 79,000 is included in the 300,000, so. And there's the feasibility. So Rick, you're pretty comfortable with that. It just depends on how the reservoir project goes. On if we'll expend $1,000,007. That's a question.
We don't know.
We don't know. Okay. Okay, on the next page, I think it's pretty straightforward, and if Dave has any comments.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of stuff there. That's all I gotta say. But we got a lot done this year, so I'm
Right.
looking real forward to next year.
Fewer projects?
They're more.
Yes.
Feeler dollar amount. Do you think, Dave, you'll have any that we need to pull in there? Of course, we're pretty well set on the 594. That's what's in the process to be approved in the CIP, so.
Yes, there may be some little stuff, but I'm kind of hoping that what got started this year will all get completed out of the money that's in there this year. That makes any sense. Next year's stuff, I think, will be starting fresh. The stuff down at the bottom there, we're starting at 40,000 annual inflow and infiltration stuff. There's a few of those little projects in there that didn't have a lot of expenditure in it this year. And that may fill up anything next year that we have left over.
Sure. Or overruns.
Yeah.
For everybody on the far left corner or far left side, we're doing really pretty well on our priority 1s and 2s out of the master plan. We've been working, getting those projects that were recommended to be done. So we're doing pretty well till we get to the big ones.
And then on the last page is the streets and drains. Yeah, whoa. There's no more than that. I noticed streets were kind of in between on major streets in the 2-year period, unless something were to. Rick, on the grant process, are they still holding to the 2-year or?
Yeah, we didn't get a grant for East Second Street,
Right,
so we can apply for another grant. It's coming up in sometime this summer it opens up. It closes in November. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna try for West Third. That's our next big project over there. And Dave's already kind of got an estimate how much that's gonna be. And the 250 ought to do us real good for storm and pavement on that project.
when do you think we're gonna do the rest of these second now?
Well, we're gonna do the engineering with the new budget.
Mhm.
And the project will be constructed the following year.
Oh, okay.
That's Dave and I found comfort level in that.
Yeah,
engineer 1 year and construction the next. That way we're hitting our windows when it's supposed to hit.
Do you foresee any issues with ODOT and grants with monies being pulled out of ODOT? And
Well, their maintenance department is really hurt. Good thing going on. They're already doing layoffs. But their grant money comes from different agencies. And so there's an unknown coming up. But the small city allotment, that's what this is I'm not sure where they get their money, but it's been a strong grant process for several years. I don't think that one's gonna get.
good.
Let's see.
One thing I did notice looking at the budget package is that the 187 for the Lomos to the rest of Second Street is not in the 5-year plan yet. So you might take a look at that again and see if we need to add it on your timing that you just talked about.
What'd you say?
Loma to
It's-
River Road.
Yeah, the 187,000 that you see there for construction. The actual
We're not
The actual
spending-
it's not in the 5-year plan. Need to look at the timing of that a little bit closer.
We're doing that this summer. But we're not spending all that pavement money, because I'm just doing,
Just in water line.
just over the water.
Yeah.
So you're not gonna do any street,
Just patching.
just patching. Okay, so that frees up, okay. And then so the big one's gonna be Third Street.
Jim?
Yeah, Rick, do we have anything planned or at least trying to look for some money to do the feasibility for the crosswalk at Lori? Where are we at on that?
We met with ODOT last week, Bobby and I did. And it was kind of a meet and greet and get caught up on conversations. And the very first thing we have to do is create a plan. We had the, what was that vision plan? What's the study that for the traffic and the walking? We have one already that's old. It's like
Circulation plan.
Circulation plan, yeah.
That's right.
We can use that same one and update it. We're gonna get help from a consultant. We have to make that plan first, and those projects need to be identified in that. And once they're identified in that plan, that's your ticket to go after money. Because you'll need to get the big grants, you have to have some preliminary engineering and stuff like that. But step one, they won't even look at us unless we have a plan. And we hope to work on that real soon. We got this summer, the grants are opening up again for that transportation plan. We got a person helping us that's done many transportation plans, and some kind of has a say so. And who gets what? So we're gonna utilize that this time. Hopefully get it pushed through, use the right words in the right box, you know. And we get that, then we got something to work with. So that's step one. That's what we're focusing on.
Good. Did you have anything else, Don?
Nope, that's all.
Okay. Julie, any comment on CIPs? Is she still there?
No comment.
Okay. We can look at the speed data Trying to put that in every month, at least. So we have record. Do you want to talk about that when we get down
I think
farther?
it'd be better. I mean,
Yeah,
these are just graphs, so
That's right.
they don't really, I put it into a table that's usable and we can discuss it then.
okay, we'll leave that. Delineators, Ocean View Drive. I handed out to the commissioners here, and Kimmy has one. I just put together a basic format of trying to get more discussion going on it.
Hold on one moment, please.
Thank you.
You didn't get a picture of yours. I couldn't, my printer decided it didn't like how it is.
I think my Zoom may have gone down, just hang tight for just a second, please.
No problem.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. The idea was a little more discussion. Council has discussed the delineators. They have not made decisions. As from what I understand, they were talking primarily about the curb. A 1 foot tall concrete curb.
Is that shown on these pictures?
It is not. That doesn't have any, what I'm providing has nothing to do with what council was looking at. Parks and Commons, trying to find what I gave, but that's okay. Parks and Commons has talked about this as well. What I was trying to do is to create, what are some of the goals that we need to meet in terms of the barrier? I mean, we need to allow pedestrian. We need to allow a safety separation between the car and the pedestrians, either walking or on bicycles. We need to have access. And as Mr. Thompson, I know, will address, you need to have a place that you can get out of, come and go from that bike lane. So things need to be somewhat spaced. It should not be a continuous anything. There are an awful lot of ideas out there. I was just throwing some goals in there to consider, and then I just got online and was showing a bunch of pictures of options. Nothing that I'm supporting per se at all, but there's an awful lot of ideas out there. And so we need to discuss and give some additional direction as we need to help people make a decision. And we do have a guest today who has an opinion, I believe, about what should be done. Go ahead, Paul.
My basic opinion is this concrete thing involved.
The curb you're talking about specifically?
I think it's awful.
Okay.
My wife and I have ridden hundreds of miles of trails on our bicycle throughout the US, on paved trails, less than paved, gravel, sometimes dirt, that kind of thing. And I have never seen what you guys are wanting to do here, talking about doing the concrete for this kind of trail. I've never seen that, period. It's because it's unsafe. Okay. Now, when you develop one of these trails, well, first off, my wife and I are members of two big trail organizations, the Rails to Trails Conservancy and Adventure Cycling. And they both work on planning and developing walking and biking trails throughout the whole US and help cities plan things. But proper development of a trail, you have to consider the customer's profile and the environment available for the trail. And I don't think we're doing that. The people that use the trail, families, kids, adults, I've seen wheelchairs on it. There are just a lot of various things. I think the trail is a wonderful thing. When the original construction was about to occur, I recommended delineators with a spring type bounce back. And that had never, that just sort of, nobody listened to that. So, an example of this spring type is down in Florence, where the old Rite Aid used to be. When you turn in to go into the Rite Aid, there off of 101, they had about 30 of these delineators with the spring function. And they, if you look at them, they're still up and they're functioning after, I don't know how many years. They've been there ever since I can remember. And we've been here since 2010. So I assume it's before that. One of them is broken out of all those, and they've been run over a million times. You can tell by the tire marks on them and everything else, but they've come back. That was what I recommended we put in when we were doing this originally. And didn't happen. I think it was because I recommended it to Rick, but I think what happened was that it cost more. So we chose the cheaper way of putting these things in. And we also have let this vandal just keep destroying them over and over and over without catching them. So anyway, my wife attended a city council meeting.
Excuse me, are we sure that it's a vandal? I'm just curious.
I don't see any other way. I mean, unless we have a blind driver down there, because, I mean, seriously, I mean, I don't see how, I mean, they're pretty visible
Okay,
there.
but there's no proof of vandalism, but we just, it's by
Too
method
frequent.
of elimination is determined. Oh, we do have proof? Okay.
Yeah, we haven't arrested that person, who got rid of them. That's, send them over. But anyway, we won't get into that.
Trump is gonna open Alcatraz. So.
Anyway, my wife and I have never seen such a concrete barrier. Craig Birdie sent me a picture of one from over in Bend. And it is not, that trail is totally different from the trail we're talking about. Our trail is like a promenade, by the ocean someplace. It's not a real trail. The one that he sent me a picture of is totally different thing. And it looks like the same kind of trail, but it's really not, because it's on the back of a few of these things. It's a separate one-way trail on each side of the road. Okay, so it doesn't require a bailout, or it doesn't require anything, and it's only for bikes. Okay, now if you look at the picture, all the pedestrians are on this huge wide sidewalk that's to the right of the bike ride. So that one, the picture just doesn't have anything to do with the reality of what we've got. So that's the reason I think that I hope people don't look at that and go, well, that's a great idea to put this concrete barrier down because they did it in Bend. No, it has nothing, that's not realistic. And we don't need it because ours is slow. People are moving slowly. And now the beauty of it, I ride a lot. I ride it a lot to check mail. You can go in and out and get, if people are walking, you can bail out of it, get on the road, and don't have to bother the people to move over. And it doesn't bother me because I don't have a barrier to jump there.
Yeah, and I wanted to say, I've walked the trail regularly for 5 years now. I don't remember ever seeing a biker on.
Oh, there are not many people that do bike.
So, but most of it is, like you said, is family and pedestrians just want, getting their exercise in and enjoying the view. Yeah, so.
I like to weave my bike between them. So
I do that sometimes.
You're a big guy.
the city hall. Bo and I are the same.
But the idea too that this is on this Bend picture, that's a plastic barrier that's been put down and it's probably screwed into the concrete or the asphalt. That's just as bad as the concrete as far as I'm concerned, having that concrete barrier. But people are going to get hurt with that concrete barrier. I mean, and right now, we don't have, as long as this has been in, we've not had any problems with people running over somebody on the pedestrian walkway.
No, and most of the time when people are walking dogs, for example, they'll move out and let people walk by them. So it's a very cooperative situation.
I agree. I don't have any problem with the way people have acted on there, other than that vandal likes to take care of this. I especially like the fact that you've upgraded it, put the tables in and flowers and grass areas. And I think that makes it very valuable. And I think putting this concrete thing in is going to just detract from the beauty of the thing. I think it's great.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I think we ought to do something to curb the vandalism. I think we ought to, I put in here that they do make some of these, I think, these delineators that are a couple of feet tall with that spring thing on. And bicyclers could still see them, people walking could still see them, the drivers coming by could see them. And I think that would provide the safety area we need for the people walking up the trail. And it's important to have it safe. And I'm all for safety, but I just think that this big concrete thing the concrete thing is not going to last either, because you're putting it on asphalt, and this, due to the heat and rain and all that, it's one surface will expand at a different amount than the other one, and so it's going to break loose pretty quickly.
What about bollards? Have you thought bollards? Have you ever thought about bollards?
Oh no, you mean the big?
Certain cylindrical kinds of things.
Yeah, I don't. There are some trails that have,
Really?
Yeah.
some trails have them, and I've never liked them. People, it just seems like we haven't needed all this time. The only thing we need is somebody to go out there and catch that guy from destroying those things, you know? And so let's just put something in that will not be so easy to destroy. You know?
And the spring ones you think would withstand the vandalism?
Well, I don't know, but if you look at the ones that were run over in Florence, but where the Rite Aid used to be, you'll see that those particular ones take a lot of abuse. And I think that the spring type ones will come back okay generally, but we got to catch this person and let it be known that we don't accept vandalism on city property.
I agree 100% with that sentiment, but it hasn't been done yet. And I don't know why, but.
Well, I don't
it
know.
hasn't been done.
There's a lot going on, you know. in the city. But anyway, that's my opinion of this, and I hope you don't put the concrete down or a plastic barrier down it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things to be considered in terms of it. I mean, the ability to go in and out, I mean, certainly needs to be considered. I mean, not necessarily just for bicycles, but it has to do with people walking dogs, getting over. I mean, the path is only so wide, and a group of people on it versus a single person coming the other way. Somebody's moving out into the street area, and so that needs to be allowed for. Certainly. We don't want to impact vision of people living in the streets, which I don't think any of us want a 4 foot high anything anyway. The county owned that road until what, a month ago? So it hasn't really been ours. We've inherited kind of the option. The delineators, Dave, have they been holding up out on 101? The ones they put in there? We know those have been hit.
They're holding up a lot better.
So that's a better style,
So they're
certainly.
still
I
up
thought it
and
was the
doing
same
fine.
identical ones that we have here.
They're not.
Oh, they're not okay.
They're not. They are ones that will come back up.
Oh, okay, good.
Yes. Yeah.
John Squat, hands, what's up?
Don?
I was wondering in that section, are we still having the delivery trucks, especially the 18-wheelers going along that path like we were in the past? Something we might need to get somebody to monitor and check on the delivery trucks to C&K and see how many are still going all the way back to Ocean.
All the way down to Ocean View?
Yeah, it's easier for them to go to
Third
Ocean View and
Street.
come back on Second Street.
Yeah, I think they've altered. Pontiac, yeah, I think they've changed their route a little bit. I think it had to do with our stop signs on Second too.
Yeah.
So in regards to your comment about the ones on 101, that they spring back, are they they're obviously like this spring type apparatus, but they aren't that type, right? Paul, you know,
They have
I haven't looked at it.
Dave
close.
does.
The ones on 101 down here have the sides cut out at the bottom. So they're just like two pieces like that, going like that. Whereas over here, it's a round piece, so when it bends over, it
It's
snaps.
gone.
Yeah.
So that.
Yeah, the spring type were ones that we had originally suggested to ODOT, but we didn't get to make all the final decisions either.
Lincoln
They also
County played
put
a role in
curbs
that, right?
in second.
Or-
101 is all ODOT.
Oh, I was talking about Ocean View.
Lincoln County did, yes, correct.
So now we get to say.
Now we get to say what we really get to do.
Well, thank you for the hospitality.
Oh, certainly.
Allowing me, they offered to go early. I'm glad I got to sit through all the.
Are you? Thank you very much. We appreciate your comments and we will continue to discuss. I don't know that we have an answer. Rick, do you have some? Please.
Vary a little bit.
Good.
And now you know next time, go early.
Yeah.
We're not done.
We could put a sniper's nest up on the hospital.
So when we first made it one way and put the delineators up, there was a lot of people in town that did not like it. Just did not like those delineators. They used to park down there, eat their lunch, stay for a half hour, take off. And there's a handful, I'd almost call them vigilantes. And so I don't care if the bollards are spring, the delineators are spring or not. They're gonna cut them off with a bandsaw, a sawzall, a battery operated sawzall or something. They hate them.
That's what it looks like they're doing.
Yeah.
The song.
Yeah, because some of them are breaking in spots, some weird spots that wasn't because they got ran over. So we got that issue, which kind of eliminates delineators, So, and then the second part of that discussion was council doesn't want anybody to park over there and a delineator can still park there. They want nobody parking. So, like you guys are alluding to, there would be spaces in, like in the curb example. I'll just follow through with the curb example. We'd have little entryways every so often with it would slope down like a sidewalk, then there'd be a way to go in between. And we wouldn't be laying the concrete on top of them. We would cut out the asphalt and put a footer in. So it holds just like a curb and gutter type along the street. It's got a little base to it. And it will support the pipe. I presented a 6-high, just a normal curb like you might see on the road. Council didn't like that. And their discussion led to possibly a 1 foot high one, or maybe even a little larger. And also mayor would like to have seen some color added to the concrete, some kind of color when they mix it up. So it would kind of stand out a little bit and would just blend into the. Hoping it's not such a big trip hazard.
I think tripping is an issue if it's too short. So, I
Yeah.
mean, you've got to start getting whatever
Yeah.
element it is. It needs to be just high enough to not trip.
So I've tasked the engineer to come out and start giving me pointers, but
Okay.
hasn't showed up yet. Like I said, they're busy going through transition. And so, but the longer we go with this, the more ideas that are coming up. Like my original idea now wasn't so good, the blocks that you see out there. I still think that's an option. They make a good place to sit. But, it didn't win over council.
What did you say?
It didn't win council's approval, at least not yet. So that's the narrative on the delineators. Some things, look like a simple fix, and then you start adding parameters to it.
Yeah. It's
And,
not simple.
yeah.
Hey, I have a question for you, Rick, about
Yeah.
the delineators. In the several years that we've been talking about the delineators, it seems to me the priority has always been that they must not damage the cars. And I would suggest that since you're prepared to go into the ground anyway, with this little wall, that we make or acquire massive or powerful delineators made of metal, embedded in the road surface and painted a nice color like Craig wants. But if anybody runs into those delineators, they're going to mess their car up. And I think that would be a powerful incentive against vandalism.
So would run a new tire into a real tall curb. People will take out their, what's that, spoiler in the front.
Yeah.
And so it's not an easy decision. What my preference is, I don't want to do any more maintenance out there.
Yeah.
I'm not the guy doing it, but
Maintenance is an
Well, and
issue.
aesthetically, it's just horrendous for people walking along.
Yeah.
They can see the delineator's gone and stuff.
yeah, and it looks like crud,
It's-
Yeah.
and I really want a solution that we can do it and then walk away, come back every 2 years for painting, whatever.
Something.
Fire hydrants along there. Thinking out of the box, sorry.
So,
Well, that's,
Paul, if you got any, with that, maybe you can rethink an idea and come back to us with an alternative that fits those parameters. Does that sound okay?
Well, I put in my letter that I don't see another solution other than the delineators. In the concrete, cutting out the asphalt and all, this is gonna be tremendously expensive, I would think, with time and materials. And it seems like to me, the only other idea I had, like I said, is the 2-foot ones. I think they're about 2 foot that have the spring on them, and just put them in, and if they don't work, then you can always come back and pour concrete
Yeah,
and do all that. But
pay twice.
well,
Okay,
you've already paid twice.
we'll pay 3 times. Okay, I personally think delineators are out of the question because they will get vandalized. So like I seen some of the pictures that had in there. One I never seen was the
tires.
Yeah.
Or the metal,
I've never
Yeah.
seen that.
Aren't you know?
the big loops were metal.
So that's a concept I've never seen before. So there's more out there.
There's a lot out there.
So Paul, have you seen this?
I don't think you did. There's one on the table back there too.
Let's give Paul one of those.
There's one on the back table.
This was a handout from Lynn, that's part of the
I just-
meeting.
Tried to find as many different kinds of things as I could.
And you do make a good point, is that we're gonna have to make a recommendation sometime.
That's exactly
And
right.
we've been through this a lot without a lot of clarity.
And if we don't make a recommendation, it is gonna go forward some way.
Yeah,
Anyway.
council will make it for us.
Correct.
Which I kind of think they're already trying to do. But what I'm saying, there's still time.
Well,
The
this-
engineer hasn't even got out there yet.
Yeah, that's the curved ones are kind of wild.
Okay.
They actually,
Good to see.
not in that picture, but they aren't
I won't run into.
narrowed.
Okay.
They're separated. There's 2 of them. They go up and back down. It's different.
So I imagine by the time we're done, it will be the outside. Which can be spectacular.
Yeah, I don't know what to recommend at this point to do.
I've said bollards, stainless steel bollards, and the reason why stainless steel they're impervious to the salt water, so
Yeah.
they would last forever and they look really nice.
Dave, you know, he had a good idea. We make the ballers for around our fire hydrants. And they're plastic, but we fill them with concrete. So, they don't rust. And it,
Sturdier.
and you're gonna hurt your car if you bump into one.
And you could paint them, I assume?
What's that?
You could paint them.
Yeah, we paint ours yellow. And they look real good.
That's a job for Kevin.
Yeah.
You know, we could have, again, something, get the citizens engaged.
1,300 feet, that's a lot of
We've got a
ballers.
lot of whatevers.
Yeah,
We need to think about too. Night, a color. I mean, the car has to see whatever this is, as well as people seeing it day and night. I mean, I know we don't have a lot of walkers at night, but there are some.
well, Dave has already looked at that. And even if it's a curb, we're gonna put a bunch of reflectors on it.
And I think you have
And
to do
if it's
something.
like a block, you know, we'd put reflectors on, you know, both three sides. So you can see it in the dark.
What
So
about,
we put some footwork into this. It's just
Yeah.
the decision.
What about a speed bump that goes down the length of it?
Yeah, that's good.
That way the bike could go over it. It's just a bump.
That,
But what
You're not
stops
gonna
the
fall.
pickup? What's
Well-
wiping out a
parking?
family?
the parameters, no parking,
Yeah,
Oh,
and people would do it.
drive over it, there's gonna be parking.
Yeah.
So that starts to set, something has, whatever it is, has to be at least a foot or more high.
Yeah.
why no parking?
I'm not against it myself. I don't care if anybody.
Why is that a requirement? I don't understand that.
It's just something council said.
I think well, I don't know, but
I don't think there would be very many parkers. There might
No,
be some.
I think it's the culture of the town and the council that made that decision.
Yeah,
They didn't want cars parked up.
Well, that doesn't mean you can't come back with it. I mentioned it during a meeting. I just threw it out there. That's when I was starting the conversation about delineators and their options. And I started out by saying, me personally, I don't care if anybody parks there. And I got cut off.
well,
We now have
Maybe.
a policeman part-time that can give a ticket to somebody that's parked there.
Well, we do have a cop in town, and I suggested that if you don't catch them the first time, I'll get them the second time,
Yeah,
especially if Abby's in town. You know, it just takes a phone call.
Keep the camera going.
if people are parking though, what does that mean for pedestrians? They're gonna have to walk in the middle of the street to get
Yeah,
around
have
the
to go
car.
around.
they're all walking in the middle of the street.
Yeah, they are.
Talking out
No.
loud. Yes, they are.
Oh, they
We had
don't.
overnight campers parking there before.
That's right.
Most
It was
people are on the
awful.
inside of the
Parking was
delineators.
Allowed there. And I just think that's the wrong thing. These wave things are ridiculous. Somebody's gonna get hurt or killed on this. I mean, they're absolutely
You're right.
scary. And I've biked a lot and I.
Why don't you tell me what you really think?
It seems like the decision's already been made to put in concrete area. It's-
No,
and
I'm just telling you that the
No, I-
delineators are not.
So are we gonna try to make a motion or try to push this forward or what?
Unless we have a consensus, which I haven't heard.
It sounds like we have a consensus.
We don't have a consensus.
No.
I think the council should make the decision. Maybe
Yeah.
that's the consensus, right?
That way, if somebody
Take the
trips.
flak.
It's not
Is
you guys.
it on the agenda for, do you know, for this month's meeting?
No, but it was on last month's. I did, and I was gonna come back with estimates. Hopefully the engineer would, I don't have that yet.
Maybe our recommendation is that we don't have one at this point because it's too complicated to really solve all the issues and we don't have a good solution yet.
Yeah, I'd let them own it if I could.
I think Paul's point that we want something aesthetic.
Yes, I agree with
And I
that.
think we should
100%.
at least send that up to the council that we don't want to just put in something ugly.
Exactly.
Are delineators aesthetic? And Rick is saying no delineator, but I,
They are, I think they're aesthetic in the sense that they're minimal intrusion on the landscape. You want to see that ocean and the beauty of it. And a little tiny delineator is very thin and not interfering with your eyes to see what's going on.
Not interfering with your going down the trail either.
Right.
That's more the point. Somebody could get hurt with whatever you do other than delineate.
And then if
I
you,
mean, you come down my mind.
if you look at this photo of the bollards, that looks
That's
like,
that's a solution if it's, you know, if it protects the trail from cars, you know, crossing over and hitting them.
and it's not too high,
Yeah.
so.
But the bollards in that picture were put there for in a high traffic environment. That's a low traffic environment. And you're providing bollards, provide a safety feature you don't need.
Well, it's a low traffic environment, but a high vandal environment.
Yeah.
That's the reason why a bollard makes sense. Now, I agree with you on that.
think we
They'd
all
they'd
agree
have
to
trouble
not have a
sniffing
solution.
through it.
I would go with that.
Okay, we have no solution, so
Yeah. Let the council.
we'll move on. Are we
figure it
gonna
out.
have a city manager back? Is she coming back?
No.
She went to school or something.
Yes, I think so.
Wish I had known, I would have skipped. She could have been involved. Street fee,
I can talk about anything that he was gonna. talk
Okay,
about at the meeting.
okay. Okay, we had, let's see, I think we've kind of talked about the fire hydrants already, anyway, in painting. Street fee, are we gonna continue any more discussion on that, or do we want to keep that tabled? I kind of got the impression from the city manager that's on hold for a while. Through the council,
What's that?
our additional utility fee for streets.
I think that's gonna come up. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think she told me that was gonna be on the agenda.
It's gonna come back to council again. Okay, we had, just as a reminder, we were recommending a fixed fee on utility billing. So we can repair more streets.
Yeah.
Because we have a real limit now in how much we have for a budget for streets. And that would basically double it. And so we could get some streets cleaned up, and we have an awful lot of street repair to do.
Yes, we do.
Yeah,
On the fire hydrants. I asked you guys to think about painting decorative fire hydrants in the high tourist
okay,
areas. You know, like 101 and Ocean View Drive, basically. And all the rest just painted yellow so that they're easy to find. But I need some kind of thumbs up or thumbs down. And then I'll run it by the fire chief. And let her know what we're doing, and if there's an issue, I'll report back.
okay. Well, and that would be not the top portion, correct? Because we have to deal with the cap as one color for sure because of pressure.
Yeah,
And then is it primarily the body?
the body, you know, some
Body
people
from
make it
the-
look like Mario Brother. And,
Yeah.
yeah. I think they look good, and that'll look good on tourists walking around.
And
We
you're,
could do the wild things.
So what I need from you guys is to say it's okay to put decorative fire hydrants in like 101 and Ocean View Drive.
Did
I don't know,
I involve the art group in town?
Oh, I think it will catch on. We just got, I think Dave's already had a few requests, but he has to say no until we have
And I think would need to create some parameters at some point.
Yeah.
If it's a
Right,
go,
it
then
can't
we
be
need to
just-
have some
It
parameters.
can't be just graffiti, of course.
Yeah.
Well, it could be, but that's sometimes art, right?
Yeah,
It is.
so maybe by the next meeting, you guys think about it some more.
Do we need to think about it? We've kind of talked about it before.
Yeah,
If somebody
I'm
wants,
not, I'm opposed to it. I just,
do we,
You're
Put on
opposed to
to just,
fancy stuff, yeah.
cause
Basic yellow.
they're gonna put something up that the community doesn't like, right?
So
Then all of a sudden it becomes a fight.
yeah,
So Kevin, you're.
I don't
saying-
like it, this guy likes it. It's something offensive or something like that. Then you gotta deal with that, then you get a lawyer involved, and then pretty soon it's just a big
you have to get
deal.
it pre-approved.
So you're saying basic
Have to be
yellow.
controlled.
I say a thumbs down.
What,
Basic yellow color.
Yeah, basic.
he's into the yellow, he's got yellow.
I like yellow,
Mellow yellow.
yeah.
Well, that's another thing we could do is to get it pre-approved, and to get it pre-approved, has to come before you guys.
But I think we have enough charm in this town that we don't need, I'm kind of throwing on you
Yeah.
right here. You know, why do we need to do something fancy with in the
Yeah.
downtown?
And if that's the thought, I'm fine with that, keeps it easy.
You know, and that way we don't have to review stuff. and
Yeah.
That would be a.
Do we have a motion to give direction to Rick either way? Not here.
I motion basic yellow.
Second.
All those in favor of keeping the fire hydrants in the public
Color.
area, the visible areas for visitors, yellow, as opposed to them being art. That makes sense?
I'm fine with it.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay.
Wow, it's unanimous.
All right, is that,
I didn't vote.
is that it? I already told you about
One
the.
thing about the delineators, I would go down to Florence and I'll take pictures of those right angles. And they're proven that they work down there. If you lose 1 out of 30 in 10 years, who cares, you know? But, you know, and that'd be a lot cheaper than pouring concrete and cutting the pavement.
Those similar delineators we proposed for Highway 101 too, and ODOT didn't go that route, so we didn't have a choice there. Ocean View Drive, we have some choices, you're right.
Yeah. That's it, isn't it?
Okay, the ODOT meeting,
Yeah, I touched on that. We have to come up with a circulation plan update. And once we get, our concerns put into that plan, then we have something to work with. We got our marching orders, basically, and they have to have that plan to get any ODOT funding. That's one of the reasons they put out the, grants for the transportation plan. But the grant will also.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. The grant will also cover, circulation plan, if you write the application. That's where we're getting our help to do that.
and that would tie into anything that we've been talking about too, in terms of speed and any kind of a grant, we're gonna have to have the transportation plan to approach them with. Okay.
And,
Not
yeah,
necessarily the speed though, because we've already applied for a speed. Right? That was done and that's there's a process set aside for that. It doesn't
Yeah.
require circulation.
and you're gonna talk about.
So, yeah, ODOT. Did we apply for ODOT to do the study that they did? Okay,
Yeah, but took a few months.
but
But when they sent me the letter saying they did, I was like, what are they
when?
talking about?
So everybody's had the opportunity to see that. And basically they are recommending based on their findings over a 2-day period in the middle of a week. That the 40-mile-an-hour speed zone at the north end of town be moved farther north 500 feet.
Right. That's the only thing they've changed,
That was the only thing.
which is
they
outside of the city limits and really doesn't pertain, but yeah,
But it's something, I mean, it does start the process of slowing people down.
yeah.
I'm guessing is that's because the fire department is out there, you think?
Yeah, they specifically mentioned
Do they?
the accident that happened.
Yeah, they did. So that was part of it, I'm sure. There was some influence, there's no question.
Yeah.
So Don, do you wanna?
Yeah,
More about
let me begin first of all by, Kimmy, I sent you,
You did.
yeah, I
It's
forwarded.
in the packet.
Those-
I can bring it up.
Yeah, it wasn't in the packet, it's to your email.
It's in the packet now.
Oh, it is in the
Uh-huh.
packet, perfect, okay, yeah, if you'll pull it
I
up.
will bring it up for you. Hang on just a second. This one?
Yes, exactly. Okay, so the steps on the right-hand side are the ones that we're concerned with. Let me get mine pulled up here too as well. Here. Okay, so the steps on the right-hand side were the ones that we're concerned with. State highway within city limits, county roads and city streets. This is the process for establishing speed zones. Now, let me just start this by saying ODOT. The speed zones that are on current 101 are ODOTs. The city had nothing, I mean, we may have suggested something, but they pretty much determined where the village center was. That should be 25 miles an hour and then 40 miles extending to the city limit. So that was all their call, which is correct. The city has the right to ask for a modification of the speed limits, and that was done through the city council, and through Bobby and Rick. And, so that was requested. And you can see on the right-hand side of this chart, it says that this ODOT, the road authority submits a request for speed zone change, which is what we did, the city did. And the STRE's office, I'm not sure quite what STRE stands for, but I'm gonna say Transportation Region Engineer.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, office reviews and requests forwards to the region traffic, okay? And then the region conducts preliminary investigation and reports finding, or the region conducts a speed investigation and makes a recommendation. What happened in our case is the region conducted a speed investigation and made a recommendation. The recommendation was, I think we have it in here, seconds. Recommendation was to deny the reduction to 25 to the city limits. They split the highway into 3 sections. Section A is the north section that runs from the northern perimeter of the city limit all the way to about 9th Street. And then the section B, which they did not measure, runs between 9th Street and the bridge, the end of the bridge, the south end of the bridge. And then from the south end of the bridge to the end, to the part where it enters the Situs Law, that was section C. And in section A, they used speed checks and basically showed that the cumulative 85% speed to be 49 miles an hour. So people in general, there's a speeding that's going on. And this report basically said that about half of the people that they measured were doing in excess of the speed limit, 43 miles an hour or more.
Which
Now, this was,
our typical reports are showing that as well.
yeah, well, our reports only measure section B, which is a section they did not measure. Now, let me go back to this flow chart real quick and just explain again a little bit more about that. So if you look at this flow chart, after they did their study and made their recommendation, they notified us, which is this blue box underneath. The state traffic roadway engineer made a decision and they notified us of the recommendation. Now they say make a decision, but it's not really a hard decision, right? They notify us, and now the city has the chance to appeal. It says that we can either resolve the issues, and I'm assuming that goes on with informal discussion with ODOT, so that again, nothing is hard and fast. It's a lot of, elbow rubbing and, shoulder throwing or whatever you want to call it. But it could be done without a formal hearing. However, they do offer the city the opportunity to go to a speed zone review panel. And at that panel, the city would be able to make its case for maintaining the speed, reducing the speed to 25 miles an hour in section A and section C.
So we got 30 days basically to respond to that. So I'm hoping that you'll write it. You've almost got it done.
Yeah,
We send in our rebuttal. And then from there, we'll probably get into some kind of a meeting with.
yeah, the panel review.
Yeah.
They'll have a hearing, I'm sure, and the city can send its member people that want to go up. In fact, we could take a bunch of citizens if we wanted to up there to testify in front of this panel and let them know what we want.
Should all bring our wheelchairs and our canes.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. So just to let you know that in both sections, they determined that there was speeding going on. And above the 50%, about more than 50% of the people were speeding in the 40 mile an hour zone. And this is on two tests, like Lynn was saying, on a Tuesday and a Wednesday, really low traffic days, basically. At least that's what I would think. And the time that they actually spent doing the test, I think it was 4 hours for section C and 4.5 hours for section A. So it was basically, and they weren't even really scientifically sampling the time of day or how many, where they set up or any of this. It was just weird. It was like, let's just get this done and get it over with. It was very, in my opinion, a very poor study.
And just to clarify, their definition of speeding is that you're going over 3 miles over, 50% were speeding refers to over 43 miles an hour.
Yeah, at least 3 miles an hour over the posted
Yeah.
speed limit. And they measured, interestingly enough, and in my report, you guys can read this. They measured that even in this small sample, someone was doing 63 miles an hour in one of the sections. I can't remember which section it was. And so there were some people really flooring it in the 40 mile an hour zone. Now reducing the speed limit to 25 is not going to cure the speeding problem that we have, right? That's a whole different other process that YAHAT's going to apply to deal with, and that is putting speed enforcement cameras up. But it would, in my opinion, have several positive aspects. One is to reduce the confusion of going from 40, 25, 40. And so this back and forth is really, I think, an issue that would be something we could discuss with the state, with ODOT. Now, I went through what the regulations stated in terms of this report and how they're supposed to conduct it. And they failed on several parts of this study. We do know there's several letters. I don't know if you guys have my memo up or whatever. Do you want to go ahead and pull the memo up? And we're on page 4. of the memo.
Oh, okay, hang on 1 second.
So you want to summarize where the study fails in your mind?
Right. Well, where they failed to meet their own regulation. That's what I want to
And
talk
what our
about.
argument would be for if we get a chance to.
This
There's,
memo or past this one?
it's the other one. It's
Yeah,
on Phipps
on past
input.
that one.
It's not on that memo,
No.
Yeah, I have to go down to the.
It does sound like Rick is, it does sound like Rick is ready to help us.
I don't think, it's not at the end of this one, unless you merge the documents. Oh, there we go.
It's-
Good,
it's here.
good.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. All right, so we want to go,
Page 4.
Oh, page 4.
yeah, you can start with criticisms of the ODOT report, which is just below where you're at. A little bit further down. There it is, okay. So the first thing that my first criticism was that it relies on convenient sampling. My business is marketing research, so I deal with statistics all the time. And convenient sampling is something that a lot of businesses will do to cut costs because scientific sampling is expensive to do. We don't necessarily need a scientific sample to evaluate what's going on in terms of speeding on the highway. But we do need a bigger sample than what they did, which was 4 hours on section A and 4.5 hours on section C on a day, Tuesday and a Wednesday, with no justification why they chose those days. So a more robust sample is something that we could ask for in terms of this. And it should measure the speeding over a full week, not just a day or 4 hours in one day. Furthermore, further down, the study fails to comply with their own standard for measuring method urban speed zones. And I went through and did the regulation. You go on down a little further. Yeah, right there. The regulation states, and just keep going a little bit. There you go. The regulation states, and it says that an engineering study must be in writing and must include the following components or information regarding the segment of highway being considered. And in green, I've made comments. The crash history over the preceding 3 years, including noting any fatal or serious injury crash. They did talk about the instance at the fire department where the woman, were 2 people killed in that accident?
No, just one.
Yeah, slammed into the ambulance. But they did not mention that there was a pedestrian who was killed because it fell outside their 3-year. They had a 3-year window that they evaluated. And there was I didn't know this, but someone told me that there was an elderly pedestrian who was crossing in the 40-mile-an-hour zone in section A and was struck by a vehicle and killed.
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly when that happened.
From Sear.
Yeah. So we get down to letter H, and this is where I really felt the report failed. The description, it should detail a description of pedestrian and bicycle activity, including but not limited to those on skates, scooters, and personal assistive devices. And all it had was a table that used the word med to describe pedestrian activity and bicycle activity on section A. and low for section C. And it didn't say anything about how the vast majority of pedestrian activity on Highway 101 is simply crossing the highway, right? I mean, that's where most of us encounter 101 is getting on one side or the other. So that was not mentioned at all. And nor did it explain that to establish and demarc crosswalks across 101 highway, the speed limit needs to be 25 miles an hour. You can't just put marked crosswalks across a 40-mile-an-hour zone. That doesn't work. And I mentioned in here that there's a public trail that runs on the east side of 101 highway between Diversity Drive and the art galleries. Many people cross there to enjoy that trail from the Overleaf Lodge area. So they park down there and then cross over. Another trail is, of course, on the other side, the south side, and that's the crossing to the Amanda Trail. So neither one of those crossings were noted at all in their report. And then also, someone pointed out to me that there are people that lack local transportation but work in the city, in the village center, walk along 101 highway to get to work. And none of that was discussed either, that workforce that they're forced to walk in a shoulder separated from the street by just a white line. The report should have noted that on section A, persons walking parallel to the highway are forced to walk in a shoulder that is demarked only by a white line on the highway. It should also have noted that on section C, there is no shoulder at all on large swaths of the east side of 101 highway, making pedestrian passage along that side of 101 highway impossible or extremely hazardous. You're going to be walking in the road with cars traveling 40 miles an hour plus. And so the fact that he gave he gave no attention at all to pedestrian concerns along 101 highway was really an oversight, in my opinion. The report failed to state that there were no bicycle lanes or facilities, I call them facilities, on either the east or west side of section A or C of Highway 101. And then it said the recommended speed, which must be a multiple of 5 miles per hour. I said that the city really should understand how a study of a traffic doing 40 miles an hour or greater has any bearing on whether the speed limit should be reduced to 25, right? I mean, if there's speeding going on at 40, what does that got to do with reducing the speed to 25 to make it safer for people to cross the road or walk along it? So it was just a really strange thing, nor was there any discussion about the fact that Yachad's citizenry skews older, and Commissioner Welch informed me that we are the 5th oldest population of cities in the state. So
and we're surrounded by other old people, and Florence is in the top 10, and even
Really?
Walport is up there.
So the fact that they ignored the demographics of our citizens in making their decision is also an issue I would raise with a review panel if we get that far. And here I write that in this spot study in section A, even though they only measured 4.5 hours in section A, someone was clocked at 58 miles an hour in the 40-mile-an-hour zone. And in section C, which is the south section, someone was clocked at 63 miles per hour. These were the 2 fastest speeds, but there were a number of other people speeding along. So that's substantial. 20 miles an hour faster than the speed limit, So Another point that should be made is how much extra time would it take a traveler through the city if the current speed zones of 40 were to be switched to 25? And just doing some rough calculations, it's less than a minute longer, 144 seconds, less than 2 minutes longer, I should say. So it takes 2 minutes more to drive 25 mile an hour from one side of the city to the other, right? That's not a lot to ask to improve the safety of our.
It's a painful 2 minutes.
Yeah,
Just thinking that it would now take me 7 minutes to get to work.
Yeah.
so 144 seconds is the difference there. And then I mentioned also that ODOT will not permit crosswalks across 101 highway unless the speed is 25 miles an hour. And this came from the ODOT traffic operations manager, Dorothy Upson, who is retiring. She's I don't know if Schmidt is the replacement, but there's someone else above him. I think that this Upson is above him. And she wrote that to have crosswalks in the 40 mile an hour zone would require medians. The state, in other words, you'd have to have what's called a refuge in the middle of the highway. So the highway would split and there would be this island in the middle. Now, when you think about the cost of changing the sign to 25 miles an hour so that you could paint crosswalks and put a sign up versus putting this concrete refuge in the middle of the highway and extending it doesn't take an accountant or an economist to understand which is the cheapest solution. So that's an easy thing to argue, in my opinion. Transit route or facilities, letter K, there was no mention of that. Other information in the professional judgment of the engineer preparing the study are relevant to the designation of the speed zone. Such information may include, but is limited to, number and location of accesses, driveways, intersections. None of that was done. Input from law enforcement, not done. Public testimony, not done. Length and consistency of segments, not done. Demographics of users, seniors, children, tourists, commuters, et cetera, not done. So all of these are required by the ODOT regulation for this report, and none of this was done. So for all those reasons, and I summarize them at the end, general and summary criticism, I recommend that the city basically reject the study and ask for a hearing in front of their review
Reject it
panel.
with a reply. And then I imagine there's a process to get a hearing. We'd have to correspond with what you wrote. And then say we're rejecting whatever. And then they digest it for a while, and then we probably have a hearing.
Right, can you go back to the flow chart?
Up or down?
The big flow chart, I'm not sure where it was. That's the one I see.
Kimmy, it's at the end of I don't think it's in down there.
Yeah, so at the bottom, they say that if ODOT and the road authority, which would be the city, cannot reach agreement, then an appeal is sent to the speed zone review panel. So the first thing is we approach ODOT and say, inform that we are not going to accept their findings. We think that they need to change the speed limit. And you can use my input, or we can all talk about it or whatever, but we can say that they think the study was done in a haphazard and non-scientific manner.
You ever thought about being an attorney?
I'm sorry?
You ever thought about being an attorney?
No, I have no interest in being an attorney, but I do know statistics, and I know that what they did was not a valid sample. And you just can't generalize like that. Plus, I don't see how measuring speeding at 40 has any bearing on whether the city speed limit should be changed to 25. It just, their regulation governing speed, and I'm not gonna argue this, but it doesn't have bearing. It doesn't relate to what we requested. So,
Well, I can imagine with ODOT, their first answer is always no.
Mhm.
Probably like an insurance company, right? You're always gonna deny the claim.
Always.
You write back to them, respond, with your stuff here
Yeah,
and ask for a hearing.
yeah.
But I think the package needs to be sent while we ask for a hearing.
yeah,
That way they can review.
yes. And so,
Kimmy, can you release the?
Hmm?
Take this chart off.
well, wait, keep the chart on for 1 second. I want to make one further point here and then we can forever give up on the chart here. That bottom part says that if the road authority does not agree, then they'll try to resolve issues with us, with the city. But if ODOT and the city cannot reach agreement, then an appeal is sent to the speed zone review panel. And I imagine that we would then be able to present our case to judges or whoever's on this panel, right?
Yeah.
And they're gonna take into consideration, in my opinion, the fact that the study was faulty, that it didn't meet the requirements, and that the city wants this 25-mile-an-hour speed zone, and that it only adds 2 minutes to a drive through the city. So when they put all those things together, I think we would win. That's just me, but I don't see any reason why they would object based upon ODOT's study. So, okay, so now we can leave that and Don, whatever you wanted to ask.
So. City manager and Rick and Dave, is this something that we want to start moving forward? I mean, we have a time limit, I believe.
Yeah,
We have to.
I vote that,
So stop sharing, Kimmy.
write or polish up what he wants me to send. I'll send it in and keep this moving.
Okay,
Do we need a motion?
I was gonna say, do we have a motion?
Yeah, yes, please.
Yes.
Whoa, wait just a minute here. On the, moving the 40 miles out north, is that a separate issue that we could go ahead and do a
That's their
separate motion
report.
on that?
That's what we're denying that in their report.
Yeah,
Well, I
no,
did-
the
I
40
strongly
mile an
did-
hour, let me just say, the
Whoa,
40 mile
whoa.
an hour zone, as I think I've mentioned this before in previous meetings. ODOT has said to me that if the speed limit is reduced to 25 in the city, they would buffer it with 40 mile an hour zones as you approach the city limit. That's what this, and they're recommending doing that without even reducing the speed limit. They're recommending starting the 40 mile an hour zone further north. That, I think the city can say, we agree on, and let's let that go. It doesn't really pertain to the city because it's outside of our jurisdiction. ODOT will do what they want there. And they're recommending they're gonna go ahead and drop that speed limit. So our appeal is not gonna have any effect on that.
So is that something we need to say we agree with or not?
I think we'll make that known in any kind of meetings that we meet with them, I'm sure. That we agree with that. And I do agree with it. I think it's a good idea.
So we need to make
Make
a
a motion?
motion.
Well, well,
that-
Don's not done.
Okay, Don?
okay, I think that, a couple of things. I think the study, even though it was not done, really shows more that we need to work towards speed control, one thing, in the 40 mile an hour zone. I think that we need to kind of work on that being a priority. On the other thing is, I think we need to document that the savings or the speed is only 2 minutes. I can't believe it saves, that it only increases the time by 2 minutes. That's especially from the south side of town.
The math guy that we
Well,
used.
I passed it to a PhD from Cambridge, who many of you know, Cambridge University, Wally Orchard. So I will defer to his.
We can show the math.
He's actually even a PhD,
Yeah.
but we'll get that for you.
So it's only 2 minutes, and that makes sense because it's only 3/4 of a mile on one section and 3/4 of a mile on the other section.
It's not very much.
Yeah, so dropping it to 25 for those two, for that 1.5 miles is not going to take a very long time to.
And most people are driving above that. 50% are driving above 28 or 43.
You're
Yeah.
dropping the 25, but then what that does is then move the 40 out. So you have to take into account some time zone there too.
Right.
And the slowdown of vehicles. So
Right.
you got to really count that
Yeah.
distance.
So 25 miles an hour, and it should be noted that if the speed limit dropped to 25 in section A and section C, we still would not be able to, if we had speed enforcement, or even if our deputy was out there looking and taking radar pictures of people going by, she would not be able to write a ticket unless they were doing in excess of 35 miles an hour. So there's a 10-mile-an-hour leeway that the state gives on state highways.
Wow.
It sounds, I know, it sounds terrible, but you can look at the legislation and you'll see it. It's right there, it's stated. Governor Kotek made a point of it. And so when she granted the cities the right to have speed enforcement cameras and the legislature, we cannot, if we ever put speed enforcement cameras up in Yachats on 101 highway, we would not be able to issue any tickets unless they exceed 36 miles an hour in a 25-mile-an-hour zone or 51 in the 40.
Wow.
And I would
Been that
expect
way
that,
for
what they're
years.
saying there is that curtails speed trap cities. That across the country, they've had a lot of trouble with speed trap.
Well, they had a lot of trouble with people obeying the speeds, I think, is probably the federal thinking about. But, okay,
If I was to make a motion, and let me attempt it, that this body does not agree with the recommendations of ODOT.
Okay.
And that we would like to, the next step here says we would recommend that Rick and staff and of course Don try to resolve these issues first. Okay.
informally.
And then if not resolved, then that we appeal for make an appeal to go in front of the speed zone review panel.
I second the motion.
Need
I
a
would
second.
have to try to resolve, it's not resolved, so you're saying it's not resolved. After trying to resolve it, is that what you're
If
saying?
it's not
Okay.
resolved,
No, that it's not resolved. You just had a discussion about it, so is it resolved or are we moving on to the appeal?
no, we're already at, the first step is always to try to resolve the issue with ODOT. That's right here.
Right, informal negotiation with.
Okay, so that's happening first.
Right.
Thank
And
you.
then if we cannot reach agreement at that point, then we would, we recommend that we go before the speed zone review panel.
The only thing I would change on that is in the first part, I would add in the city limits. And that way it doesn't affect them reducing the speed north.
Yes, I agree.
Okay,
In our discussion, of course, we would, in your proposal, it would be clear that we
Sure.
agree with that, but go ahead.
All of those in favor of the motion
I,
and motion all those opposed? Motion carries.
Did you have your hand up, Don Ron?
I'm still thinking.
Too late.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay. And
Motion
then,
passes anyway.
and then I would just like to go over the speed monitoring platform data real quick, just
Okay.
to flash it up here.
I do have one thing though, the Amanda Trail out there where you go across Windy Way. I think there should be a sign on the other side of that curve
Yeah.
that says trail crossing ahead.
Slow down, yeah. I agree 100% with
Been
that.
suggested before.
We'll talk
Yeah.
with them if
I don't know if this fits in with.
No, it fits in perfectly.
Yeah.
So let's go, can we bring up real quickly that spread,
every commissioner gets their pet project.
Yeah. It's an amendment
Mine's
to
looking
the
like.
bill.
What would you
it's
like?
this, it's this thing like here, it should, you can see it's kind of like a spreadsheet thing. Yeah.
It's the last page.
Okay, she's going there to the top front.
Oh,
Yeah,
onto
other
the-
way, yeah. Way down.
No, this is, oh, right before that.
There we go.
There we go.
All right. So this is calculations based on the speeding going on in section B. Now, section B, just to let everybody know again, was not measured. There was no speed test or anything, no speed monitoring at all on that. But here,
Because we're not requesting a change in its.
right, we're not requesting a change here.
Mhm.
But this is a speed of 25 mile an hour. This is the number of vehicles who exceeded the speed limit by more than 10 miles an hour in the 25 mile an hour zone. Now from December 2024 to April 2025, 5 months, there's been 16,940 incidences of speeding above 10 miles an hour in the village center. 16,940, and that's without measuring. We only have the south, what they call south incoming. We don't have south outgoing, right? So we have no measurement of people heading south at the curve. When you go around the curve and heading south, there's no measurement there. So we're missing about approximately a quarter of the speed. So you could say, okay, if south incoming, we had 10,000 incidences of that, you might have 10,000 incidences of it going out, right? I mean, it's just an idea. Anyway, so if we use the revenue numbers, and you can charge at a minimum, $165, I think is what the violation is. We would, and for some reason, this is cut off for some reason. But just to let you know, it would amount to about 2.8 million in revenue for just the 5 months. 2.8 million, of which the city would retain 1.7 million approximately in revenue from ticketing. Now, of course, this is not going, I'm sorry that the chart is truncated. I'll get that squared away. But people have said, well, this is unrealistic, of course, because people would automatically slow down or try to slow down, and we'd see our revenue reduced. But I will say this, I think it would be a substantial revenue stream for the city if we had this in place. And again, this is not reliant on a circulation plan or a traffic system plan. We could ask ODOT for this permission to put these speed camera enforcement cameras up today, if we wanted to. The city could do this. Now, Lynn has mentioned before that we need to really have some kind of thorough analysis on the cost side and understand what the process would be and who, some idea, and all that can be done. And what I would recommend is, and I know the city manager isn't here, but I would recommend a work group. This would be a perfect thing for a work group to do, where we could then reach out to cities, other cities that have done this, and find out, okay, how are they doing it? What are what are the administrative costs? What's there's a report that has to be filed every 2 years with the state legislature. So there's some rigmarole to getting this done. But the fact of the matter is, we'd have more than enough money to handle our street potholes if we did something like this.
Suggestion? Put together a short memo and give to the city manager to suggesting the work group.
That's what she's asking.
Yeah,
Okay.
put something together to itemize.
Should I bring the memo to the next commission meeting and let everybody vote on it?
Sure, that'd be great.
Okay. I think it's something that would be a very positive revenue source for the city. And I'm not saying this because I want revenue. I want the speeding to slow down.
I want the revenue.
I know, but ODOT doesn't want to hear that.
I want to fix streets.
Okay, that's it for me.
Thank you, Don. That's all.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Anybody else have anything?
One thing I noticed, that on the crosswalk at Lori Lane is already in the 25-mile zone. I don't know if we can push that forward. We shouldn't need there's enough center thing already there that, maybe we could work on requesting that crosswalk sooner.
You can do the circulation plan first.
Yeah.
Hey, Don, I just want to say thank you very much for doing all that work. I think it's tremendous work and you've done a great job.
Thank you, appreciate that. 3+ years of grind, but.
And you're not there yet.
You're really trying yet to do it.
Well, we had a
With that-
traffic engineer come down here for 8 hours.
Yeah.
With that, meeting is adjourned. Thank you.